Hey, let's get into the very last new lesson that we're going to do in preparation for the EOC. All right, this is about functions, so we're continuing from what we did yesterday, and we are going to combine and compose functions. Now, notice on your skeleton notes, you already have these 4 functions at the top of the page, so you don't need to recopy them. Now, the first part of the lesson is about combining and composing functions. And to combine functions simply means you add or subtract or multiply or divide 2 functions. When I ask you to evaluate, I'm asking you to get a final number answer. So on this one, when I ask you to evaluate f plus h of 4 right here, you need to know it just means do f of 4 and add it to h of 4. And you know how to evaluate f of 4 and h of 4 from yesterday. So if I look, when I plug in, all right, I'm going to go back and show you. When I plug in f of 4 right here, remember f of 4 means that you're going to do 2 times 4, which is 8, minus 1, which is 7. Okay? So I'm going to write 7 right here. And then it's asking me to do h of 4. So I'm going to look at h of 4. H of x is right here. So h of 4 means the square root of 4, and that just means 2. So I'm going to go back, and I'm going to put 7 plus 2 and get 9. And there's my answer. So on number 2, g minus k of 3 means just to do g of 3 and subtract k of 3. So I'm going to talk through. When I plug 3 into x, I'm going to have to do 3 squared, which is 9. 9 plus 3 is 12. So I'm going to write 12 in here, and I'm going to put a minus sign. K of 3 means do 2 to the 3rd power. 2 to the 3rd power is 8. And 12 minus 8 is 4. See? Combining is not really difficult, so this is something that's definitely within reach that you could do if you see it on the EOC. Now on this one, k times f of 0 just means do k of 0 and multiply it by f of 0. So when I look, k of 0 means do 2 to the 0 power, and remember, anything to the 0 power is 1. So I'm going to say 1 times. So I'm going to look back at f of 0. F of 0 would mean to do 2 times 0, which is 0. 0 minus 1 is negative 1. So 1 times a negative 1 would just turn out to be negative 1. One more of these. When we do h over g of 25, it means you're going to do h of 25. You're going to put it over g of 25. And then if you can reduce the fraction, you'll do so. So let me go back and say that h of 25 would mean the square root of 25, and that's just 5. G of 25 would be, does it say g of 25? Yes, okay. So g of 25 is 25 squared. Now, if you put that in your calculator, you'll get 625 plus 3 would be 628. That's a large number. And guys, I know that that won't reduce because the only thing that will go into 5 is 5, and 5 doesn't go into something down here that ends in 8. So I'm done. Okay, so we're going to do one more thing with... I'm going to skip. We're going to do one more thing with combining. And so I'm going down the page vertically where it says that we're going to make new functions or we're going to create new equations. And I'm going to stick right now with the combining, add, subtract, multiply, divide ones. So on f plus h of x, you're going to say, well, you're just going to have to do f. Sorry about that. I just wrote the wrong thing. We're going to have to do f of x plus h of x. Okay? So if you look at your given information, do you see that the f of x equation is 2x minus 1? And then I'm going to add the h of x equation, and that's the square root of x. So you get this brand new equation, like I could call it y if I wanted to and say it was 2x minus 1 plus the square root of x. And that would create some brand new function that we've not looked at before. You're just taking two functions you know. That's all there is to this. So for g minus f of x, do you see I'm just going to do g of x minus f of x. I'm going to take the g of x equation that's given on the paper, and that's x squared plus 3. I'm going to subtract. Now, when you're subtracting, you better put in parentheses before you write down the 2x minus 1 part for f of x, because you're going to need to distribute that negative sign, and you don't want to mess it up. So that's going to be x squared plus 3 minus 2x. And remember, minus and negative 1 would turn over to plus 1. So I'm going to say, well, my new equation is y equals x squared. It's going to be minus 2x would come next. And then I have a 3 plus 1, so plus 4 is my final number. So I'm just taking two little equations, putting them together, and creating a new bigger equation. For g f of x, you're going to have to do g of x times f of x. So g of x is x squared plus 3. F of x is 2x minus 1, and this is going to cause me to have to go through FOIL method. So first is x squared times 2x, which is 2x cubed. Outer is x squared times negative 1, so that would be negative x squared. Inner is 3 times 2x, that's plus 6x. Last is 3 times negative 1, that's negative 3. And there's nothing to do with that. There's no like terms, and they're in the right order. So I'm done. I'm just going to say my new equation is y equals all that stuff. So my last problem, and usually these are pretty easy when you divide, is I'm going to get a new equation for h of x over f of x. Now h of x in the given information is the square root of x. I just keep looking at my paper that looks just like yours. And f of x, it says on my paper, is 2x minus 1. And there's not a thing I can do with that, so I'm done. That's my brand new function. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to pick up composing functions. So I'm going to do the right-hand column on your paper. Now, this is not my favorite notation, but I'm showing you because it could turn out on the EOC. So when you see the F circle G, that since it's an open circle, it's not a times sign. This means F of G of 0. So it causes you to insert one function inside the other. And then you work your way inside out. Well, look, on your paper, I'm just going to remind you up here at the top, it says that G of x is x squared plus 3. And this says do g of 0, you see, first. Well, g of 0 would be 0 squared plus 3. 0 plus 3 is 3. So now I'm going to replace the g of 0 part with just 3. So now it's saying, okay, do the outside part. That's f of 3. Look at your paper. Do you see that f of 3 would be 2 times 3, which is 6. 6 minus 1 is 5. And there's your answer. So these are kind of fun, I think, knowing to work inside out. So this G circle H means G of H of 13. And again, you work your way inside out. We'll look at your paper. Do you see that H of 13 would just be the square root of 13? Well, that's an old crazy number, but that's really all it is. So on the inside, replace the H of 13 with the square root of 13. Oh, but look. G of x is supposed to square what you're given. So take the 13 square root and square it and add 3. Now this is kind of nice. What is the square root of 13 squared? Do you remember it would just be plain old 13? So plain old 13 plus 3 is plain old 16. Ah, that worked out better than I thought it would. So I know that this K circle F business is better written as K of F of 3. This is the way I prefer to write it, but I need you to know what the other notation means just in case. Now, f of 3, if I look at my paper, would be 2 times 3, which is 6, minus 1 is 5. We just did that a second ago. So replace f of 3 with 5. Now it's telling you to do k of 5. K of 5 would be 2 to the 5th power. And if you look at your power chart, remember we've done that before. That's 32. Okay, so h circle k means h of k. This time we're doing of 6. So I've got to do k of 6 first. That means I've got to do 2 to the 6th. All right, so I'm going to do scratch work out here. If you look at your power chart, 2 to the 6th is 64. So I've got to do h of 64. Okay, wow, now it's getting large. Nope, look at this. H of 64 would be the square root of 64, which I thought would be a really bad number, but that's a nice number. That's just 8. So 2 of them turned out surprisingly neat. Okay, so when I do composing functions, and I do new equations, now this has a little more meat to it. So I know I've got to do g of h of x. But what's that mean? Okay, look, on the inside you got h of x, and if you look at your paper, it says the h of x equation part is square root x. So now what you've got to do is, I'm going to have to say, again, look up here in the upper left corner. If g of x is x squared plus 3, then I put the square root of x. This square root of x goes in place of every regular x you had. So g of the square root of x means instead of x squared, it's square root of x squared plus 3. So instead of just an x, sub in square root x. So if that is square root of x squared plus 3, do you see that the square root of x squared is just x plus 3? And there's your brand new equation. You get y equals x plus 3. And that's your whole equation now. So you compose two functions, and you can turn out really on this with a pretty simple function. On number 2, h of f of x, okay, you got to do the inside first. So what's the equation piece of f of x? Well, if you look at your paper, it says f of x is 2x minus 1. So I'm going to plunk that in there. Now, h of x, if you look at it, look over here in the left-hand column, h of x equals the square root of x. So this time if I do h of, and it says plug in 2x minus 1. So if I plug 2x minus 1 in place of where just the plain old x was, then I got to plug in 2x minus 1 in place of where the x was there too. So I wind up getting the square root of 2x minus 1, and there's nothing I can do with that to make it nicer. So I just put y equals in front of it, and I've got my new equation. On number 3, we've got f of g of x. And so we got to replace the g of x part first. And the equation part of g of x is x squared plus 3. Now, look over here on the side where I'm doing scratch work. It says f of x equals 2x minus 1. So I'm going to take x squared plus 3 and put it here and here. So f of x squared plus 3 would be 2. And instead of just x, it's x squared plus 3. And then I put minus 1 out there at the end. Now what I've got to do is distribute and try to clean up. So I get 2x squared plus 6. And then that minus 1 still out there on the end. So I've got one more thing I can clean up. I can make it 2x squared plus 5, because 6 minus 1 is 5. I can't do anything else to make it neater. So stick a y equals in front of it, and you've got your brand new equation. All right, last but not least, k of f of x is what this says to do. So look at your paper. What's the equation piece of f of x? Oh yeah, it's 2x minus 1. So I'm just going to stick that in there. Okay? Now, over on the left-hand column where I've been working, it says k of x equals 2 to the x power. So I need to replace this x and this x. What do I replace it with? 2x minus 1, because that's what it says that you're putting in. So I'm going to say it's 2, not just to the x now, but to the 2x minus 1 power. There's nothing that I can do except put y equals, and that makes my equation done. And my guess is online, what they'll do is they'll have like k of f of x maybe written out like this equals, and then they'll put the blank, like the box for you to type into. So all you are responsible for typing in is the 2 to the 2x minus 1 part. Okay? You don't have to put the y equals part on the computer, I don't think. All right. Now, if you switch screens here, then it goes with what's on the back of the next page. So that's kind of part 2 of A11.2. So we're going to pause right now so you can practice part 1 of A11.2.